Hey, thanks for joining me for another training lesson in Microvellum Toolbox. Today I'll be taking a simple 2D section drawing and turning it into a 3D product using Microvellum's Extruded Product Builder. And now for more solid modeling with Microvellum. This here is the room with the Extruded Product Builder template from the first video in the Solid Modeling Tools training plan. So I'm going to start this video off by opening up a new room, and this time picking the annotative drawing template. I also still have the solid modeling palette open, so I'll go ahead and close that. If I want to go back and work in that other room later, I can just open this palette back up again and restore the drawing from a previous session. I'll be showing you how to do that in another video. In this one, I just want to show you how to start with a blank drawing and create your own construction path and 2D section. This is going to be very basic, but remember, you can get as creative as you like as long as you follow these steps. Okay, step 1. You got to draw a polyline that represents the construction path. Going from left to right, pick the points in the drawing to place the polyline. And then the cross-section of the product that will be extruded along that path. First off, I don't need that. Go ahead and delete it. Okay, so I'm going to draw 6 rectangles. These are going to be the different parts of the product. Starting with the wall stud, I'm using the tab key after I enter the X dimension to cycle over to the dimension in Y. Then the top plate. This time, dragging the cursor over to the end point. Hit tab, and the dimension in Y for the thickness of the part. I'll use the copy command here for the bottom plate. And now for the subtop. Okay, the last 2 rectangles to draw are the inside and outside panels. Now remember, when you're doing this, positive numbers go to the right in X and up in Y. And then the opposite goes for negative numbers. Now if you're not seeing the text box showing the values next to the cursor, you can go to Drafting Settings, DS in the command line, and be sure to check the boxes for the dynamic inputs you want to see. Okay, now that I have this section drawn completed, I'll create 2 viewports so I can watch the product get built as I add the different parts. All right, now let's start solid modeling. Open the palette, right-click to add a new product to this room, give it a name and a product type. Like I mentioned in another video, most of the time this is going to be the extruded product starter. And now select the construction path. Okay, here it's asking if I want to import some smart layers since it can't find any in the drawing. I'm going to say no. This is going to let me add my own when selecting the vertical and extruded entities. But before that, just wanted to show you real quick here, once an object is part of an extruded product, you can show or hide them with these checkboxes. This is really helpful when making edits. All right, moving on. Next up is selecting the 2D objects of the cross-section. Toolbox will then ask for the entity to be given a smart layer. Here is where you can set up how these parts will look and behave inside of the product. I'm just going to give it a name and a material for now. The color can be whatever you want. For vertical entities like studs, you can set the spacing amount and whether that amount will be fixed or equally spaced. I'm going to leave the dados and dowels set up as false. We'll come back to that later. This next setting is how the parts will behave when there's a break or a joint in the construction path. Just set it as none, hit OK, and apply the layer to that part. This is just to get us started. You'll keep repeating this step until all the entities are accounted for. The extruded entities have some different parameters and the way they interact with the joint. For the inside panel, I'm going to want to have this one butt up into the other panel. And then as I get to the other parts, like the outside panel and the drywall frame, I can change that to something else, like a miter joint for the outside, and the frame, keeping it a certain distance from the corner. Remember, as you're making new layers, be sure the correct one is selected before applying it to the part. Okay, and for the frame, I'll set the corner negotiation type to distance from corner, and then give it an amount for the start and ending distance. After that last part gets added, the Extruded Product Builder creates the 3D solids along that construction path. Okay, I have that joint there at the end because the material's max length is 8 feet and this wall is 9 feet. Now if that joint works for me, I can just leave it, or I do have some other options. 1, I can set a new max length. 2, decrease the length of the wall. Or 3, use the extruded tools to relocate that joint. Now before just jumping into making those changes, I want to see what's happening with this corner. I'll hide the inside panel to get a closer look at the studs. Yeah, those aren't going to work for me like that, so let's edit the properties of that wall stud smart layer. By updating the joint type to double stud and picking an associated part, you just need to pick one, the wall will redraw with the new studs added at those joints. If there's more edits, you can go back again and make changes. Making edits to smart layers is one way to edit the product, but it's also important to remember that that 2D section is fully dynamic at this point. Now I can draw a 2D object and create a cutout in the stud. If I want to move it, just use the AutoCAD move command and put it where I want. Now during this process, I'm not using any of the MV commands since this isn't actually a Microvellum product. Well, at least not yet. Okay, then if I want to extend the height of the panels for scribing to the floor, I can make that change and have this product update in real time. And the same thing goes for any other object in this 2D section. Now finally, when I'm done messing around with the drawing, I can work on the overall length of the wall by adjusting the construction path. Now it's important to know that if you do this, some of the changes to the product may be lost. This typically is just referring to the edits made using the extruded tools or other solid modeling commands. The smart layers are not going to be affected. And now because it's under 8 feet, the joint in the extruded parts went away. So a very simple wall drawn with Microvellum's Extruded Product Builder. I'm going to end this one here and continue with more training in our next video. Well, thanks for making it to the end of this one. Be sure to come back next time and join me for another lesson in learning more about Microvellum's solution to solid models.